Hey there, I'm G, and welcome to the next level. And you're jumping into the debut opening of G's Treasure Chest, where we'll dive into some of the more rare and uncommon games in my collection, see what they're all about, and give some final thoughts on their place in history. Remember back in the 80s and 90s when the adventurer theme was popular? That time when movies like Conan the Barbarian and TV shows like Hercules were all the rage? Kevin Sorbo and Arnold were certainly a hit with the ladies, and their movies and shows were definitely great. I bet many of us think fondly of that time, but what about adventure-themed video games? As a Sega kid growing up, if there is a game that pretty much everyone thinks fits this theme the most, it's Sega's Golden Axe series. Whether you're a fan of it or not, you can't deny how influential that game series was. However, in Japan, Sega's Mega Drive, or the Genesis in the United States, had a game where a lady warrior was slaying thugs and monsters way before Xena warrior princess slung around a chakra. And within recent years, that game has risen from obscurity to become quite desirable among fans of the Mega Drive. So, join me as we sharpen our swords, master our sorcery skills, and save the world with today's game from the treasure chest, Dahna on the Mega Drive. Dahna, or Dahna Megami Tanjou, was released in Japan for the Mega Drive in 1991. It was developed and published by a company called IGS, or Information Global Services, which I hadn't heard of before playing Dahna, so I did some research, and the only other game in their small portfolio that I had ever played before was Sinistron on the TurboGrafx 16, and that was just a rather average horizontal shooter. But based on the glowing praise from my buddy Tyler, formerly of iRetroGamer and the man who requested this review, thank you by the way, I had to give it a shot. The story is that a wealthy family in a small town gave birth to two daughters, both of which were born with special elemental powers. Once an evil sorceress and her demons of the spiritual underworld caught wise of their special powers, they attacked the family during a carriage ride, which Dahna's parents were killed and she was left trapped under the wreckage. She was rescued by a magician named Mog. Is it Mag or Mog? Let's go with Mog. And he raises her into an adult. He teaches her to harness and improve her elemental skills. He gets kidnapped by the evil sorceress and her minions lay the town to waste, and now it's up to Dahna to save the remains of the town, rescue Mog, and vanquish the evil army. Right away with the look and story, you can really feel the dark tone of this game, which this is probably a good time to let you all know that this game is pretty bloody and violent, so if you're a bit squeamish or have small children around, you may want to avert their eyes for this one. Good? Alright, let's dig in. So the game is a side-scroller, and the action starts off hot right away with you riding an ogre into the town, having a blast destroying every bad guy in your way. It really is something else seeing a game of its type from this time that enemies literally disintegrate when you attack them. Keep in mind this came before the age of Mortal Kombat and the like. I found that it's more fun to just jump and squash your enemies than to swipe at them. So cool and so satisfying. But unfortunately the ogre doesn't stick around for long, as the sorceress quickly vanquishes him and now Dahna's journey really begins. You have a sword attack which you slash from side to side, thrust upwards, and do a jumping downward stab, which is super effective as many times it can overpower your enemy's attacks and keep you safe. You also have elemental magic attacks, which works almost just like Golden Axe in how you collect orbs from fallen enemies. Depending on how many you collect and fill your magic meter, the type of magic attack changes. While the magic attacks aren't as epic as Sega's iconic brawler, they are certainly effective here, especially during boss fights or in stages like this one where you're climbing up the stage and avoiding the archers. You can also extend your life bar through experience points that you gain from defeating enemies, and thank goodness your health gets refilled when you gain a level because this game is pretty stingy with health power-ups, but we'll get to that in a bit later. Though it is a side-scroller at its core, one of Dahna's strongest traits is in its variety. There may only be 6 stages, but each stage has its own unique feel. Whether it's furious hack-and-slash action, fast-paced running sections, precision platforming, and even some shooter sections, it's never the same level twice. Some people may find the differences a bit jarring, but I really like that aspect of it. Stage 2 is a perfect example of this. You just got past a standard hack and slash stage and now you're riding a horse down a slope avoiding enemies and boulders. It's so exciting how they switched it up like that but still kept the theme and feel intact. This is one of the toughest stages in the game though, as it took me several times to get through the onslaught. And then you have stages like this one here to have precision platforming, and thankfully the jumping controls are solid enough to get you through it. You just have to time your jumping just right while factoring in how you slide down off the ledges. And then there's this stage where you're riding a griffin in the shmup section. You're in a shmup level, riding a griffin. That is freaking awesome. The art style of this game is just wonderful. All the colors in the stages pop with vibrancy, despite it being dark and mythic. The sprites are super detailed and animate very well. There are even cutscenes in between levels to tell Dahna's story and really show off the beautiful artwork, which if you're wondering, yes, there is an English patch for this game that you can apply to your cartridge if you have a Retron 5 or a Retro Freak, or if you're playing a ROM. The boss fights are a lot of fun and never feel cheap to take down, and some of them are massive. I was a bit surprised by this stage boss where you basically have to sever his limbs to defeat him. It's bloody, but oh, it's so cool. He even runs away and comes back at a later stage to fight you again with his remaining limbs and even more ferocity. But wait, hold on, wait a minute. He didn't patch up his other arm wounds before the second fight? Has he been bleeding out this whole time? Shouldn't he be dead by now? The presentation of the game is excellent. The epic medieval music is wonderful with super clear drum percussions that feel just grand. Here, listen for it for yourself. The production values are extremely high for such a low-profile game, isn't it? However, Dahna's not without its problems. The first flaw I want to mention is within the controls. I know I mentioned earlier that the controls are solid, and yes they are, but for some reason the buttons have built-in rapid fire, meaning that if you hold down the button, Dahna will keep swinging her sword or keep jumping until you let go. This can be a bit frustrating if you accidentally forget to let go of the button when you're trying to make a precise jump, especially during those downhill running stages. I never like it when games do this unless it's a shooter, because if you're not careful, you could easily jump into a pit by accident. Dahna can do a super jump by holding either up or up in either direction, which is nice, but I found that it's really tough to get it right every time, especially during those running stages, making it tough to jump over pits and the boulders that come at you. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, often resulting in death. But the other main problem I have with this game is easily its biggest detractor, and that's in the difficulty. This game is freaking hard. You better master the controls, learn those stages, and grasp how to attack enemies accordingly. And you can't just run either, as you'll need to kill enemies to gain XP to build up your health bar. Like I said earlier, health power-ups are rare, and you only get 1 life and 5 continues, so you'll need to hone those skills or prepare to see the game over screen a lot. To be honest folks, I had to drop the difficulty down to easy just so I could get past stage 3 and see the rest of the game. And in my opinion, there's no shame in dropping back your difficulty level, we've all done it. Unless the game shames you for doing so, like in Streets of Rage 3 for example. Don't you hate it when games do that? However, I can see that the enemies take more hits and the bosses seem to have more attacks and forms in the higher difficulty, so perhaps it has a different ending at the higher levels as well. Maybe I'll find out sometime. Also, the final boss of this game feels anticlimactic. I won't spoil it for you, but let's just say it's a bit uninspiring. Now what happens after you beat the final boss is really cool, so that's something to look forward to. I will say that even on easy, the ending is nice. But the game isn't so hard that it makes you want to quit playing. And that's the mark of a great game, isn't it? That it's challenging, intriguing, fun to play, shocking at moments, and all in all is just a good time. In a time when side-scrollers reigned supreme, Dahna stood out with its unique style and well-crafted gameplay. It's a real shame that it didn't get a worldwide release, but thankfully now more people can experience just how great this game really is. I know the word epic gets tossed around a lot, but I really can't think of any other word that fits Dahna so well. So yeah, we'll go with epic. So, now that you know more about Dahna, it's time for the big questions. Is it worth playing today? If you like side-scrollers or hack-and-slash games and are up for a good challenge, I can definitely say it's worth checking out, especially if you dig the atmosphere. I was already told about how good it was, but after experiencing it myself, my expectations were definitely exceeded. Is it worth owning today? If you're thinking about getting a physical copy, I would recommend getting one sooner than later, as I've noticed it has started to get up there in price. Just finding one for sale at all online seems to be pretty sporadic at the time of this video. But how interesting of a piece of gaming history is it? Pretty highly, I must say. But it really makes you wonder, just why was Dahna left in Japan? Was it because of the high difficulty? The violence level? Perhaps maybe Sega felt it was a little too close to Golden Axe? I guess we'll never know. But what I want to know is, what are your thoughts about Dahna? Have you played it, experienced it, or hated it? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always peeps, if you enjoyed this video and this new review series, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, you should subscribe to my channel and check out some of my other videos as well. Thank you all for watching. I'm G, and until next time, the treasure chest is closed.